My name is Brett Chasnick, and I chose Abraham Lincoln for my leadership case study. Some background. Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican president. He was elected in 1860 and held office until his death in 1865. He was a leader for the abolishment of slavery, and he preserved the Union from crisis. Abraham Lincoln demonstrates leadership through emotional intelligence, a strong capacity for resilience, and showing the qualities of the crucibles of leadership. Emotional intelligence is not a concept just for leaders, but also for presidents. First, empathy. Lincoln had a very diverse cabinet. Lincoln filled his cabinet with people from the opposite party to take advantage of opposing viewpoints and also so they felt heard. So fighting within the parties was limited. Lincoln also respected the South during the war, especially at the end. When Lee surrendered, he and his men kept their dignity and were allowed to return home with minimal punishment. Lincoln also sent letters to grieving mothers. Lincoln himself had lost 2 sons, so he understood the toll and the effect it had on the mothers. So he sent them letters so they knew their sons' losses were not in vain. Emotional intelligence continued. Self-awareness and self-regulation. Lincoln used the technique of the unsent letter. Lincoln, when he was upset and angry with any person, would write his feelings towards them down on a letter. But, using his self-regulation skills, he would never send the letter, knowing that the consequences if he did so would be dire. Lincoln also understood that firing General McClellan was the best choice for the country. McClellan was the first Union general at a time when consistency was needed. So McClellan took advantage of this and didn't listen to Lincoln. But Lincoln understood his mistake of not firing him earlier, because the effect it had on the army were great losses among the soldiers. So Lincoln finally fired General McClellan. Lincoln also acknowledged his mistakes. He knew he made mistakes, but he couldn't dwell on them for the sake of the country. Resilience. Lincoln was a man from humble beginnings. He was poor, he was born in a log cabin, and he also lost a great deal of family before he was 15. Lincoln also showed 2 characteristics of resilience. First, he accepted reality. Lincoln lost 2 sons in just a year. It had a profound effect on him, and he suffered from a slight depression. But he accepted their fate. And within a year, he wrote the Gettysburg Address, which is one of the greatest speeches in history. And he also finished the Emancipation Proclamation. Lincoln also found meaning in life. Even after thousands of deaths, he was able to find new meaning in his country. He didn't give up, even after all these deaths. He continued the goal of preserving the Union. Crucibles of leadership. Hardiness. Lincoln lost many elections and soldiers. He didn't give up after losing his first elections. He was finally elected president in 1860. And even after the thousands of deaths from the soldiers, he knew the goal could not be stopped. But this took a toll on him and the soldiers. Togetherness and voice. Lincoln used his House Divided speech and his speech at Gettysburg to inspire people. He used his compelling voice to bring the people together in the common goal of preserving the Union. Integrity. Abraham Lincoln inspired people, and he made decisions based on his strong values. He was also known as Honest Abe. He went out of his way to speak with people, common people, so their questions could be addressed and they felt heard. His accomplishments. He created the Emancipation Proclamation, basically ending slavery. He established the United States Department of Agriculture. He won the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln's foreign policy was successful in preventing other countries from intervening in America's Civil War, such as the British, who were going to side with the South for their cotton. Abraham Lincoln signed bills into law, including the Homestead Act, the National Banking Act, and a bill that became the first transcontinental railroad. His legacy. Lincoln used resilience, emotional intelligence, and the crucibles of leadership to change the nation into a better version. Abraham Lincoln's quotes are among the most famous quotes in the world. Lincoln also set a strong example of strong character, leadership, and honesty, which succeeding presidents try to show, such as Barack Obama. Abraham Lincoln gave a series of great speeches before and during his presidency, including the House Divided speech, his first inaugural, and the Gettysburg Address.